focus will be on women in surfing.
Okay, hi, my name is Karin Amimoto Ingersoll. The very first surfboard that I had was a Local Motion. I bought it at a garage sale, and it had huge dings in it. So I got one of those little kits from TNC, and I made really bumpy ding repairs, but I loved it. It was a 6.0.
3 fins? 1 fin?
3 fins, yeah. Aloha.
Thanks.
Fine, thank you. Good. Thank you for coming. I can't believe it.
I'm looking at my friends. Nice to meet you.
My name is Mindy Pennybacker, and the first surfboard I ever owned that was mine was a purple Ryan Dotson 7.2 single fin.
Where did you surf at the time?
I surfed at Tongs.
Like you didn't know. And do you still have the board?
No, it got stolen from my friend's backyard. Aloha Surfing Heritage.
Hi everyone. Welcome to the Honolulu Museum of Art's Touristic Theater. My name is Sarah and I'm the program coordinator here. Thank you all so much for joining us for our 10th annual Honolulu Surf Film Festival. I also like to give a shout out to our sponsors, Nordstrom, the Surf Jack Hotel and Swim Club, Honolulu Magazine, Kona Brewing Company, Subaru Hawaii, and the Surf News Network. They've been very generous with us, and without their support, this festival would not have been possible, so thank you very much. Just a little bit about tonight's screening, Surf Like a Girl. They are a series of shorts and one feature about the trials and tribulations of surfing while female and the special connection that women have with the sea. I'd also like to give a shout out to Tay Steele, who's in the audience. He's the director of the third film in our lineup, Lumiere. You see that plays third. And also to talk a bit about their film before we start, please join me in welcoming Crystal Thornburg Homcy and Simon Baines of Sliding Into the Light, which screens last night.
Aloha, good evening everyone. Welcome to the Surf Festival. Super excited to be here yet another year. Thank you for welcoming us back. This is Simon. Come on.
The guy behind the column.
Yeah, he's the co-creator, editor, and music composer, among many other things, of our short film Sliding Into the Light that's screening at the very end. So hang in there, and thank you for your support, and thank you for coming to be part of the festival. You want to say something?
Sure. Thanks so much for coming. Our little film sort of came together. Not by accident, but we sort of didn't plan exactly for it to happen, and we just started working together and talking, and it sort of came together, and it was a really nice time to get to talk about things that were important to us about surfing, and also things that were important to us about life. And we have kids that are about the same age, so it felt right to sort of talk about surfing, but also talk about like being a parent and stuff. So yeah, that's sort of what the movie's about, just like surfing, but also not surfing.
Yeah, we don't want to give it away, but super honored to be here and to be part of the women's aspect. In the past, I've been involved in presenting other films, but I think it's really special that they're actually having a women's aspect of the festival. And that means that women in surfing are becoming not popular, but I think it's really inspiring women and girls to get out and show that they can do anything in and out of the water. So thank you again. Enjoy.
And so after Sliding Into the Light, we'll be having a very special panel discussion on our stage with Crystal, along with Mindy Pennybacker, the author of In the Lineup and staff writer at the Honolulu Star Advertiser, as well as Karin Amimoto Ingersoll, author of, oh boy, Seascape Voices. I'm sorry, I completely forgot the title of your book, but she's a local author here in Hawaii who is also a local surfer, so please join us for a discussion on women and surfing after the film. Thank you so much and enjoy. I'd like to now introduce all our guests, our panelists. First up she is the filmmaker and surfer, and she has done a full-length feature called Beyond the Surface, and also our last one tonight, Sliding into the Light. Please join me in welcoming Thornburg Homcy to the stage. Our second panelist for the evening is a local journalist and features writer at the Honolulu Star Advertiser. You can catch her column in the lineup every Sunday. Please join me in welcoming Mindy Pennybacker. And our last panelist, please join me in welcoming. She is a local scholar and author of Waves of Knowing, a Seascape Epistemology, Karin Amimoto Ingersoll. So this is one of the programs that we're most proudest of for our Surf Film Festival, because it does focus on the female aspect in surfing. So I want to thank you all for coming and watching. I'm so glad we have 3 different voices from different sectors to talk about this topic. My first question is, could you guys share with me your earliest memories of surfing? Let's start with Karin.
Really? My earliest memories of surfing, I'm gonna say it actually was my auntie lived right on the beach at Pico, and my great aunt, and we would go there all the time as kids and just run around and catch crabs and things like that. And we just took anything we could find really and just ride waves in, and that was really my first experience with riding waves. Yeah, I mean, we would take boards, we would take inner tubes, we would take palm fronds, frankly. So yeah.
It's late for me.
Yeah. Mindy, please.
I really wanted to learn how to surf, but my grandfather made sure I could swim a mile in the ocean first, and he would just like stand there watching on the seawall until he deemed it was a mile. Then I learned to body surf with some Kailua girlfriends at Makapu, and finally, when I was about 12, my uncle Shippy Kealoha took pity on me and taught me to surf at Queens on a longboard with his daughter Nalani.
That's awesome. And Crystal?
I was imagining my first memory of surfing would be in my mother's belly, because she surfed when she was pregnant with me a little bit. But I believed it was mainly in Waikiki and in Waimanalo. Growing up on the southeast side of the island, it was pretty convenient to kind of hit the shorelines in that area, whether on a longboard or like basically anything that floats, or just using your own body to kind of propel yourself and jump into a wave. And those are definitely some of my earliest memories with my parents and neighborhood friends.
Well, now as adult women, what about surfing empowers you? We can start. Karin, perhaps?
That's just a really big question, but I think what really empowers me, I mean, it's different now than it was when I was, kind of a surf crom, just going out all the time, whenever I could. And I think now what it is for me really is the connection that I get with just the space of the ocean, and a lot of it. This is a theme that was running throughout some of the films. Just that connection. I remember, and I'm sorry if this is a long answer, but I remember when I was in the heat of it, I was living in San Francisco, and I would just live to surf. And all my friends were surfers, and one of my friends asked me, he said, you know, what do you love most about surfing? And I thought about it, and my answer was, I loved paddling around. And he looked at me like I was crazy. He said, oh, mine's the drop. And I thought, well, yeah, of course. But so I really think that even at that point, I just was realizing that just being out there and the connection that it makes, that it helps you make with something larger than yourself.
Well, I guess my first thought was I don't feel empowered by surfing. I feel humiliated all the time. And I guess what empowers me is just like, oh, I did it. I survived.
There you go.
Occasionally there's a really great ride, but mostly it's just taking that time to be for myself. I was really moved by, was it Sophie, the Breton woman who had children, you know, explaining to her son that I just need to do this, then I'll be a better mommy, I promise. I think it's just, what empowers me is saying, you know, I need to do this, and my family, people respect it. It's my time out there in the ocean.
That's great. Yeah, that really resonates with me, being a new mom of a 3-year-old. And actually Simon in the crowd, he created the film with me, and he has a daughter with a similar age, and I started a private Facebook page for moms for surfing. And basically we do meet at the beach and we do trade-offs. And I felt like, for me, because my husband's always working, he wasn't really around to help, you know, watch Naya, our daughter, and I was just so frothing to get in the water after having a daughter, because I wasn't used to just not being able to go surf, you know? And so I created this page to kind of selfishly, I think, just to like make sure I got waves, but then all of a sudden I was meeting new moms, and I basically was so humbled by the fact that these moms are giving up so much of their own time in their lives to kind of raise the children, but to be able to find the time, like you were saying, and to encourage their own kids to be like, no, this is what my mom does, to empower herself, and self-love and self-care. And it's nice to kind of come across like-minded women as well, and even older generations that might be having grandkids now that still perpetuate that feeling of, no, this is really important to me right now, and to teach that to the next generation. Like, the ocean is a priority, and it's about respect and love and the environment, and I think that's a really healthy and great thing to kind of teach the next generation too.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So I think that it's not selfish at all, because to pass on the importance of our relationships with the ocean begins with, you know, a young age, and people aren't going to love something that they don't know and that they don't touch and get to know. So you're all are training your kids to, you know, not training, but you're introducing them to something really important and beautiful.
Thank you for the reminder.
Because I'm there too.
So as, and this is a question for Karin, so we talked a bit about, you know, how the ocean makes you feel as a female surfer, I suppose, but is there any kind of cultural or spiritual connection with the ocean that you might have that's a little deeper or more complex?
And just looking at the broader connection between Kanaka, Native Hawaiians, and the ocean, of course, you need to start with the genealogical connection. In He Kunulipo, in the Hawaiian creation chant, you know, life begins in the ocean and it works up to the first human being. So a lot of Hawaiians are in tune with this ontological connection. So just entering into the time and space of the ocean in itself has a very ancestral, deep spiritual connection in itself. And then also just specific surf spots have, a lot of mola. There's a lot of history, cultural stories connected to these places. So just entering again into that realm, there's an instant connection, an instant sense of empowerment in a way. And it's a remembering of those memories that have been established and made in those places that relate back to genealogy. So in that sense, it is very much so. And just the word heinalu, I always think of this when I'm out there. He means to slide, right? Octopus are to slide, and then nalu is a wave. But nalu is also to ponder or to think about. So heinalu is sliding into a state of pondering. And I always think about that because even though your mind may be quiet, it's a sense of meditation in a way. So I forget what the question was.
No, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful answer. And to follow up to that, so is there a certain spot, a certain favorite spot, or a spot where you feel most strongly at?
Yeah, I think it would be Black Point, and I think Mindy asked me this question before. La'io Kupikipikio, right off of Diamond Head. You guys know where Black Point is, but I grew up surfing there, and my Hana's not from there, but that's just a spot that is just, it's just a really close connection to me, and I will always have that connection.
Wonderful. And to bring on the question to Mindy, you and your husband have vacationed in Brittany, France for the past few years. How does your experience compare with the women we heard in Latalama, which takes place in Finisterre, and how is the state of surfing, from your personal experience, different here than it is over there?
Well, as anyone in Hawaii can tell, the waves are really quite inferior in Brittany for the most part. But these are a people of the sea. They're mariners. And like Florence Artaud, a Breton woman from near the place where we go, was the first woman. What did she do, Dawn? She was like on the giant catamarans going around the around the world race.
Yeah, the trimaran Oyster Atlantic, crossing the Atlantic single-handed.
Yeah,
fastest person in the world.
But in Brittany, people take this for granted. I mean, like the surf school. What was it called? Anyway, the famous surf school started there, where they just take you and abandon you in the sea. You have to live there. It's kind of like Outward Bound in the ocean. Yeah. Oh no, it's a sailing school. I'm sorry, this little boat. But as a Hawaiian person, or from Hawaii, we actually bought a house on this island when we lived in New York, and it was just this ruin. We had been introduced to the island by a teacher of mine, and the water was freezing cold. We walked down to this beach, and I looked and I said, "My God, the waves! It looks like pipeline." It was a beach break, but it was also a point break. It was like a combination in the winter of like Honolulu Bay and pipeline, and no one was surfing. This was in 1981, and then eventually we came back. We discovered that you could go in the water, and we started surfing. I rented a board from a gas station. Like this one girl had this board. She was kind of crazy again. No one was surfing. Then we came back year after year, and I saw like this one blonde girl and these three dark men, all on longboards. They're the first people on boards I'd seen besides myself. And I thought of them as the kings of Donan, even though she was a girl, because they were obviously from the island, they were native to the island, and they totally knew the break. And then it became my goal to get to know them. And anyway, I did, and Dawn wrote this book called The French House, which has it describes our whole time on that island. And one really nice thing he says is that they made us feel, we were 20 years older than them, but their great gift to us was to make us feel as if we were the same age. And they're still the tightest of friends with us, but coming from Hawaii also and going to that island, I realized that island people are similar all over the world, and that, I don't know, I'm losing my train of thought, but it also taught me to be super tough because the water's so cold. It's like when it's 61 degrees there, you think it's warm. And they're all in their little summer suits. You know, I'm in this thick thing like those girls in Japan, like I can hardly move my arms and legs. But yeah, it's the women in that film were very much the kind of frank, very spiritual women that you find in Brittany. Very unpretentious, very thoughtful, and I really think what Karin said about na-looping meditation is what can keep bringing us out to surf no matter how old we get.
That's wonderful. So Crystal, as our filmmaker on this panel, and honestly, one of the few who are female surfers and filmmakers, how do you, this year as we were putting together this program together, content was what we were hunting for. Do you feel that compared to older films that really have just women in front of the lens, that kind of really objectify them in a lot of the surf classics, do you feel the change happening more now to have more women behind the lens like you are? Do you feel like there are more young surfers who are willing to become surf filmmakers?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Yes, let's see. I've been a professional surfer for almost 20 years now, surfing for a company called Patagonia. And I remember growing up in Hawaii here and seeing a lot of surf films, like many of us growing up, but they were basically men, just only men. And then you would see occasionally like a pan down the beach and it's just a lady's butt or boobs or something. Just a woman's figure, and you're like, wait, what about, there's so many girls that, not so many, but even back when I started surfing when I was, you know, could barely walk, there was definitely women surfing in the 70s and the 80s. And I feel like it was pretty disappointing throughout the 90s growing up watching surf films with no women surfing. And then finally in the 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, there was a film called Shelter that came out, and it was by Chris Malloy, and he actually featured a Hawaii local surfer, Malia Jones. And I remember, I think it came out in 2000, and I was like, wait, there's a woman surfer, like actually in a men's surf film. It was like, you know, only 2 waves, but it was a beautiful, one of my favorite films, and there was actually a lady surfing and like ripping, and it wasn't about her body or what she was wearing, or, you know, it was actually about her talents and her love for the ocean and her femininity on a wave. And I thought, oh, wow, something's happening here. Like, this is the beginning of a massive change in women surfing and probably women's filmmaking and women in film. And it wasn't till maybe, I would say, 10 years later that more women were being showcased in films. And there were more, maybe like indie surf films, not like the mainstream punk rock with, you know, the visuals of women in bikinis on the beach. But there was a whole different genre of artistic films being made that started really featuring women in a positive light.
Did Shelter inspire you to become a surf filmmaker yourself?
No, that was a while ago, but I would say maybe more like 10, 12 years ago. Actually, maybe when I met my husband, we started dating like 13 years ago, and he's a cinematographer, surf cinematographer, and he had worked on all of the films made by Woodshed Films and Brushfire. He worked with Jack Johnson and the Malloys for a long time too, and we actually met through those guys. And I had been working with different film projects, and he had been working on his own film projects, and we kind of just came together and started doing a lot of travel and surfing, where he would be filming and I would be surfing, and it just kind of worked out. And finally got to a point just 4 or 5 years ago where I'm like, hey, how can we keep doing these surf projects with other directors? Like, I think it's kind of our time to do our own project, which was always fun to have, you know, be involved in somebody else's project. But I think it came to the point where we wanted more creative control or creative kind of input and see the whole thing through. And that's when we decided to make our own film from beginning to finish. And that was the film that you guys hosted in 2015, Beyond the Surface.
And that was a great film. I highly encourage everyone to check that out. Now we'll open questions. Any questions from the audience? Yes.
I actually have one about, because you mentioned Beyond the Surface, which I saw earlier this year. It's awesome. So now, like, as a new mom, and you have this family life, like, how do you see that influencing your filmmaking with surf going forward? Kind of a cliche question, but I'm really interested. Just like, what are you thinking now is like your next project?
That's such a good question, because Simon and I, we both have daughters a similar age 3, and you really do put, well, anyway, I did for a long time put a lot of emphasis on focusing on like the family life, but I must say I got pregnant right with Naya right when we started editing our Beyond the Surface film. I actually had the miscarriage while we were editing, like 2 months into editing, and it was hard because I was like, I don't want to like do this project, even though we just came back from India and we have all this footage, and it was such an amazing experience. All of a sudden, like, I kind of lost steam for a little while, and maybe a month. I'm like, okay, let's push through this and start editing again. And I got pregnant right away again, and I gave myself a deadline. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I'm like sitting in front of the computer with the big old belly, like trying to take the keys in. Like, I don't know about this, but I know that I want to be done with this edit before the baby comes out, because there's no way I'm gonna have time to do it. And so that was kind of our deadline, which was, I think, amazing, because I think that, like a lot of our filmmaking friends, they don't have, as in some cases, a deadline, and so they could spend years and years and maybe even a decade. Actually, my husband worked on the Bunker Spreckles film. He's one of the main cinematographers, and our friend Takuji that directed it had worked over 10 years on the film. And I just felt like, oh no, I don't want to be doing this for 10 years on the same project. So I just made the deadline, and we released it, and I toured it with the newborn, which was definitely wild. And I think we brought her here for the screening, and the ergo on the stage introducing, and then, but I was talking with Simon about, like, everyone kept saying, oh, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? I'm like, oh, I'm just breathing from this one. And this short film happened so fast. I think we made it within a week or two. And we do have some ideas that I'm really excited, because I think I'm at the point in motherhood where I'm kind of getting like, you know, like ants in the pants, a little like scratching at the surface of independence, because my daughter's getting a little bit more independent on her own now. So I definitely have tons of ideas in the head. It's just about having the time to like do the treatment, finding the funding, because that does take a lot of time. And I was even talking to Simon about it. It's like, okay, baby's napping, quick, what are you gonna do? Write a film treatment or take a nap or like make food? So it's been a little on the back burner, but if I had like a private assistant next to me, I'd be like, okay, type that, do that. But right now that's not the case. But hopefully within the next year or two, we can get the momentum going and do another feature film. Long story short. Sorry.
Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
Thank you so much again for being here and sharing all of your experiences and thoughts. I just have, I guess, just a general question, which is, when you're watching a series like tonight that features women, films directed by women, how's the viewing experience different for you than say watching, like a Taylor Steele film, or a very male masculine driven sort of high performance films. I'm just curious to hear sort of just almost like initial reactions in terms of how the viewing experience changes depending on whether it's directed by a female or a male director. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, didn't Taylor Steele do that lovely film about the daughter of the Tahitian photographer?
That's a different
that's a different Taylor Steele. Oh. Well, I guess I feel like I'm reading novels by women. I feel a kinship. I feel very deeply moved, and I think there's to me more of a coherent sense of the environment and the need to go gently on the environment in these women's films. It just kind of comes out. And certainly in Karin's book, you talk about commodifying surfing and how that affects the environment and affects cultures. I don't know, I just find women's work right now to be more sensitive on that level than men's. Although I think the Woodshed films is terrific, in their own way. And then like your film, Beneath the Surface, Beyond the Surface, it was really about lives, like the developing world. Hardship. It wasn't just tourism. And certainly that Breton girl, going around drawing all the people she met, really trying to connect. And certainly this Japanese-German film about Fukushima, my God, So it's like it's not just about, as the French girl said, it's not just about cutting a bonne figure on the wave, but it's about really experiencing this world and the people in it, having a strong community. That's what I feel.
Yeah, I definitely love the feminine aspect of a lot of these films. It kind of just brings a little bit more, nature and softness, I would say, and maybe even a little bit of innocence and motherly, deep motherly, embracing nature and humanity in a different way that I think males can approach it. And I think that it's really exciting and inspiring to see what's happening next. And I feel like every year it keeps growing, and I'm excited to see what other women and collaborations of men and women, because I feel like when you get the combination, you can really get a beautiful mix of it all. It doesn't have to be so feminine or so masculine. It can really come together in a nice blend. And I think that's a beautiful thing that people can share.
Karin, any thoughts from watching these films?
Just to add something briefly to add on to what Crystal and Mindy were saying, you just got the personal stories behind these women surfers, which you don't normally get or haven't seen much of in films that have been directed focus more on the male surfer, and I think that's an important aspect to bring into the sport, because again, and I'm going back to what I keep saying, when you bring the person and the body, you put the individual into the ocean and you see them as individuals, then you can have that connection between a body, a person, an individual, and the ocean. And there is, to me, a real relationship that's established there, and it becomes visual for people to see and to be able to connect to and build upon, I think, in their own experiences. So I liked having that personal story included.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not just music and waves.
Right. Right.
To actually have a
So
storyline,
something, right?
Sure.
Something a little bit.
I feel like that kind of changed in the late 90s, where it's like, oh wait, we can actually have like a narrative here with
Sure.
an experience, like sharing an experience. That
Yeah.
kind of became like more mainstream
Mm.
in filmmaking for surfing.
Yeah.
But then again, there was a lot of beautiful older surf films that
Sure.
were, endless story and things like that, but maybe more geared towards women, like Deer and Yonder, that screened here a few years ago. Maybe 8 years ago. I don't know. Do you guys even remember that film, Deer and Yonder? Yeah, I screened it here with another short film I did about paddling Relson's canoe. Was it like 8 years ago? I don't know. Seems so. Time is a blur, but yeah, like Deer and Yonder is a great example of a female surf and ocean film. If you haven't seen that one, too, check it out.
Thank you for your, yes.
Could you each comment on pear-shaped as if it were made by a man or if it were made by a woman?
That is a great question. Lauren Hill is my daughter's godmother. And she is, that like defines her personality of the film, and she's very strong at depicting women's roles versus male's roles. So that was like, I think her emphasis in that film too, like, what if there was, whole film on men and thongs, like, would you feel the same kind of thing? And I think it's funny because she asked me when she was making that film, well, what was your most embarrassing moment? And I remember asking her, I kind of had to think for a second, like, and I remembered it being when my husband was filming me and Kelly Slater surfing together at Aokai, and Kelly and I kind of caught a wave together close to the shore and kind of fumbled in the shore break. It was a little bit bigger, and then came up, and we were like kind of jogging towards Cameron, almost like Baywatch-ish, but not. And I'm like, this is kind of awkward. And Kelly leans over to me while my husband is filming with like a really tight, long lens, probably like, just zooming in on our face, and Kelly leans over and looks at me and is like, Crystal, you got a booger coming out. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that, one, Kelly Slater is like telling me that I have a booger coming down my face, and then two, my husband's like capturing the whole thing on film. Like, this is not, I'm like, yeah, that just didn't happen. And I feel like, I don't think, if that was happening to the guys, I don't think they would care. But for some reason, I was so like, embarrassed when, I don't know. I'm not a guy, so I don't know. I don't know if guys would be embarrassed by that, but I was pretty embarrassed. But it's true, like the different scenarios of sexism and surfing and different scenarios are definitely different to males, I think. Anyway, long story short.
I don't think it would matter. I mean, to me, it could have been made by a man or a woman. It's a great film, and it's pure content. It really will register no matter what the gender is of the filmmaker.
I agree, and what I really loved about it is just allowing everyone to laugh about it.
Yes.
It's just
actually like emphasizing on the ridiculousness
right.
of it all, right?
Right, exactly.
Like taking the piss out of being so serious about surfing and about life.
Yeah.
Social media, like, why does it have to be
and
that?
Wearing a bikini when you're surfing, and everyone has the equipment issues. Yeah, so I just love the fact that somebody was being so over the top with the subject matter, making people kind of bond around the humorous side of it.
Well, to wrap up with the last question, this is referencing back to pear-shaped. What are your tricks for getting out of a wetsuit?
Oh man. I remember doing a surf trip to Canada in February, and being born and raised here, and we don't really wear wetsuits. And I remember we were camping way far off of the beaten track, and the whole camping thing and trying to change in wetsuits was pretty difficult. Finally, we just threw in the towel and decided to rent like a little cabin outside of the surf break, and I would literally just not even bother taking it off of the beach. I would we drove maybe over an hour in our wetsuits. So I get out of the surf, put my down jacket on, like down pants and socks, and like a towel and like a beanie over my wetsuit, and then drive for like over an hour to our little cabin, and then in the privacy of the bathroom with like I don't even think there's hot water, but at least it was like felt warmer than in the snow. And it's like, okay, I could struggle for like a good half hour trying to figure this thing out. And sometimes I'd have to like call my friend Belinda, like, Belinda, can you come in and help me? This is kind of difficult. But yeah, the wetsuit thing.
Okay, so privacy. Privacy is the goal.
Privacy and friendship.
And friendship.
And warmth.
Well, in San Francisco, because I was there for a while, I don't know. I just, your fingers are just frozen, so you just pull it off somehow. And then I remember if you could get your one shoulder out, then you can kind of peel the rest off. I did have, it took a little skill. It's been a while. I don't know how high-tech full suits are these days. I haven't worn one for a while. But I remember mine, it didn't, you had the little thing that came over, and then there was no zipper. You just had to winch your way out. And I could not wear booties or a hood. I just couldn't do it, no matter how cold it was. So.
I agree. I have nothing to add.
Lucky we live Hawaii.
Yeah. There we go. So one shoulder out, privacy and friendship to get out of a wetsuit. All right, well, on behalf of the museum and the Doorstick Theater, thank you guys so much for coming and joining our panel. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you. And thank you to everyone for staying for the film and for listening to our panel. Thank you so much.
The other filmmakers in the audience.
And for the other filmmakers in the audience, Simon Baines and Tay Steele, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.